Athletes, Coach Blu Robinson here. For over 4 years now, we've been producing podcasts, YouTube videos, and other online resources to assist all those who are struggling with addictions, erase it, and replace it with things of greater value. That's why today we're excited to launch our very own fundraising campaign through Patreon. We invite you to jump on patreon.com/addict2athlete, all one word, and take a look at the 5 tiers that we've created of support. Each tier comes with a specific amount that you'd be willing to donate to assist Addict to Athlete in continuing to produce podcasts, YouTube videos, and other online resources to assist those who need the extra help establishing their very own sobriety. Because Addict to Athlete is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we rely heavily on donations, and through this Patreon account we can now give back to all those who are willing to support Team Addict to Athlete as we grow and as we build more content. You can select from one of the 5 tiers available, and by doing so qualify yourselves for merchandise, exclusive offers, podcast shoutouts, being listed in our Hall of Champions, and receiving bonus material and content that only our Patreon subscribers will have access to. We are very aware that in this day and age it takes a community and a team to support recovery, and as you hear me say often, the troops aren't coming, we are the troops. Therefore, help us eradicate addiction and helping turn those messes of addiction into messages of hope, sobriety, and ultimately healing. Again, check us out, patreon.com/addict2athlete for more information. Take your marks, get set, it's time for the Addict Athlete Podcast. Everybody, Coach Blu Robinson here. Thank you, everyone who's been downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. We appreciate your feedback, your reviews. We read them, and we want to give you guys thanks for doing so. It helps us kind of improve the podcast, know how to take it in any direction that it needs to go, but more importantly, to get you interactive with us, the folks behind the curtain here at Team Addict to Athlete. So we got lots of stuff still on the horizon. We want to promote our webpage, addicttoathlete.org. Go on there and jump on and see all the resources that we have free for you. Lots of content from our podcast here, our YouTube channel, tips and things for recovery, and more to come. Specifically, our Addict to Athlete Certified Coaching Program. If you've ever found yourself in a situation where you really think you want to help give back to your community, think about becoming a certified coach with Team Addict to Athlete. We just certified up to about a little over 20 new coaches. And so we have the outlet and the ability to help train you to become a certified sober coach, which will help you start a chapter of Addict to Athlete or become an independent coach of your own. So check out all of our content on our website, addicttoathlete.org. Reach out to us if you need more, if you have any other questions, and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. But we want to welcome you all to the team. Athletes, we got a great guest today. I can't really say in studio anymore because during this COVID epidemic, everyone's house is a studio these days. I love it. This is a long-term friend of Addict to Athlete. This is Josh Hansen. Say hi, brother.
Hey, man. Thank you for having me. Like you said, with all this COVID stuff, it's really weird not doing this in person. We've done a few shows here and there together, and man, I won't lie. I'd rather just be there hanging out with you guys.
I know. And I miss that too, because we've been trying to plan this podcast for quite some time, man. So you are now this star, this podcasting star. You're hard to land, right?
Sure. I stay at home, 24/7 like everybody else in this pandemic. So nice. Yeah, very hard.
Nice. Josh was instrumental in helping us get this Addict to Athlete podcast going. It was him that taught us how to do all this stuff. When I approached him after we met all those years ago and said, hey, I noticed that you do some stuff with Chunga and the podcast out there. Back then, I think it was the Pod Bash Network. And you got us connected. You gave us the info. We bought the mics, and there we went. And so really, Josh, we owe you a big thanks and gratitude for pointing us in the right direction, because Addict to Athlete loves being part of Radio Ronin now. And you are one of the hosts of the Radio Ronin show. Tell us a little bit about that. We'll give that a shout out because it's a great family to be a part of.
It really is. And, you're too kind with your words. I don't know how I couldn't help you set up a podcast like this just because of how valuable the message is that you share.
Right.
When we met, what was it, like 4 years ago?
Yeah, 4 or 5, yeah.
One, instant brothers. I can pick up the phone or I can text you anytime, and it's just like I'm talking to another brother. So
yeah.
honestly, I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired
Thanks, man.
by all the athletes who've overcome so much. Life is hard, and there's so much that is thrown at us each and every day, whatever it is, whether it's our addictions, whether it's stress, whether it's family issues, whatever it is, life is tough.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I love listening to what this podcast has become, because it really truly inspires me. Every athlete's story, as different as it is powerful. And I really do believe in I believe in the strength of stories, of telling a narrative, of sharing one's message that, be a mess.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm glad you say that too, because the one thing I love about Addict Athletes podcast is we don't focus really on the addiction much. We focus on all the surrounding aspects of it, the recovery parts, the positive things, the humanity behind it, just war storying. Those podcasts that war story and just give histories, those are not all that inspiring. I know that needs to get out, but I like looking at the positive side of what happens when we erase and then replace. And so you've had a huge part in all this, because we consider you on Team Addict Athlete a muggle, one of those non-magic folks that never had to struggle with anything hardcore like drugs or alcohol. But you're human, so you've struggled with other things. And that's the beauty of what Addict Athlete is. It doesn't have to be drugs or alcohol. It can be anything. Shoot, even working out, which we've had to really kind of make sure we keep balance, because it can become an addiction itself. But you've contributed so much to this group, from our artwork to the podcast to just befriending the athletes themselves. I mean, you really are a heavy hitter on Team Addict Athlete.
Well, thank you. And honestly, I think the key and why everybody loves this podcast that listens to it's that positivity.
Yeah.
Addiction. I've had my own, addictions. Nothing, with substances or alcohol or anything. Yeah. But the best way I've found to tackle mine is not I wouldn't say necessarily move past it, but move above it.
Exactly.
By lifting myself and by being inspired by others. And this is that. Exactly.
This is the way to do it. Yeah, it's that team approach to recovery. So, no one should have to do this alone, and we shouldn't look at ourselves as being less than or weak. When you get a team behind you, you become kind of that strong, force to be reckoned with. And that's what I love about this team is that. But Josh, you really have helped a ton. But we've had podcasts in the past. You and I have done some epic races together. We got to go back and reconquer our Pony Express 50 one of these days. I'm almost thinking about doing that again one of these millennium, but
remember when we said we're never going to do that again?
I remember, man. I do remember that, and it's so far away now. I can remember not really thinking that it was that hard.
It never happens that way.
It doesn't, man. That was crazy, but we've done some cool things together, and I always like running with you because you run my speed, man. I like that.
Which was not that fast.
Yeah, which is just hanging out, chilling. I mean, I love it because we can stop and literally smell the roses. And I'm like, if we're going to pay for this run, we should get every inch of it.
Hey, there's a reason why I love to stop in the middle of a marathon if there's a 7-Eleven on the way. I'm getting that Slurpee before the finish line. So
absolutely, man. I've seen you do it too, which is awesome, man. It's cool. But things have really kind of gone full throttle for you. I mean, with Radio Ronin, with work, with stuff you're doing outside of that, you're keeping yourself pretty busy, and it's awesome. But tell me a little bit about kind of you've had to take a little bit of a time out from running. You've had some hiccups and some health issues, specifically with some surgery and stuff. And so, what happened to you? Because I'm kind of unsure. I mean, the last time you and I ran together was when we were doing the Hobbler Half down the mountainside there. And you were telling me about a surgery that you were having that you were thinking was going to kind of mess up your running career for a little while. What happened, and what was the situation with that, man?
All right. Well, the beginning of that, I guess this really is a cautionary tale of really taking action earlier than later. Back in 2017, April 2017, I was running down a canyon here in Utah, Immigration Canyon, during a race. and I just happened to land awkwardly in a pothole. Twisted my ankle. It's something that, has happened to me before, whatever. I just kind of hobbled that off, whatever. Took it easy the next week, iced it, all that, precautionary stuff. But the pain didn't really go away. And I just kind of, I didn't necessarily avoid it completely. I went to physical therapy. I went to the doctor and everything. Went through the physical therapy. Nothing happened. And I kind of was in denial a little bit because I had some pretty big goals. This was less than 6 months after we ran Pony Express. 50 miler. My goal, my ultimate goal in running right now is to run a 100 miler.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had this roadmap that was going to get me from Pony to that 100 miler, which I was planning on doing February 2018 down in Las Vegas at the Jackpot Ultra Running Festival.
That's right. I remember I was gonna do it with you.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking. We were in that discussion.
12-hour. I did the 12-hour that February, and I felt great. I had the stamina, I had the strength, and I felt like this was possible, which it was. Yeah. And so I made this goal. I wanted to give myself a year from jackpot to jackpot to just do what I needed to do. April 1st, ironically, rolls around and I roll my ankle. And so going through the precautionary things of physical therapy and icing it and everything, I kept running.
Yeah.
And I was told I could kind of run, based off of my pain level. And, God blessed me with a very high pain threshold. And so I just kind of running. Man. And running. I estimated that I ran probably about, I want to say about 40 to 50 half marathons.
Oh my gosh.
From my injury to when I finally said I had enough, which was last November. I just knew, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I had gone back to the doctor before. The only thing they told me was, let's do more physical therapy and it'll be good. Mm-hmm. So I felt like a lost cause because I felt like I was always, it's got to the point where my ankle was hurting just walking. And it was this constant reminder by this point last November that got to do something more drastic than this. And so
something has to happen. Yeah.
Went for I think it was my 4th opinion on this ankle.
Nice.
And thank goodness, if you're a runner and you have feet problem, go to a doctor who's a runner. Because they kind of know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Went in, had an ultrasound, then went in for an MRI, and they're like, well, yeah, you've torn your mispronounced peroneal tendon, and it looks like you have a bone spur.
Oh my gosh.
So they had me go in for surgery, and they repaired the tendon, which had kind of, and then they took off that bone spur, which was, I guess, kind of causing a lot of the pain in that tendon. So
wow.
I was expecting to be out of running at least for about 12 to 16 weeks.
Right.
And, everything was going fine. My ankle was healing and everything. And then about a month later, I got hit by a car.
Yeah, I remember the post. You were walking across the crosswalk or something with your nephew. Is that right?
Yeah, I was outdoor mall, and I had my boot on for my ankle, and I had one of my crutches on one side, and then I had my 3-year-old nephew holding my hand in the other, waited to cross at a three-way stop, and took about 2 or 3 steps out into the intersection, and I saw that this car that was turning left was coming toward me, and I saw that I did not have their attention at all.
Yeah, you're trying to make eye contact, like it's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, thank goodness that I was a runner, because, before I started running, I probably wouldn't even looked.
Yeah, because you're right. You get familiar with looking when you're running. Yep.
But I could see that they weren't paying attention, and I could see the glow of their cell phone in their face.
Oh, let that be a lesson, athletes.
It was split second, really an act of God. Like, I don't even know how I processed everything that quick, but I was able to fling my nephew out of the way, and then I was able to kind of turn myself at least facing the hood of the car, where I was trying to just hit the hood to get their attention, something I've done before, running.
Yeah, tap on the hood, they look up,
and just hit me right in the knees. I flew back about 10 feet, and Wow.
And your nephew was okay. I mean,
my nephew was fine. That's really the only thing that matters.
Absolutely.
Me, it could have torn my repaired ankle again, and I wouldn't have cared.
You wanted to save that little one.
My nephew just is the world to me,
But see, that's the thing, right? I mean, welcome to the club. I too have been hit by a car, but I was on a bike, and so it's almost the same scenario. That kind of wacky turn. Girl was headed to UVU. I was on Heath's loaner bike because mine was in the shop, and so it got demolished. And it was the same kind of thing. Like for her it was a rush, and the sun was in her eyes, and for you the sun was in, or the phone was in the eyes. But you have to be careful with that. So after that, like, did you feel like, well, great, now I'm way back in my rebound to run? So
I'm a month into my rehab. So I'm about 6 to 8 weeks back from just starting to get back into running. But what had happened is I bruised I bruised my right knee pretty bad from the impact. Got a pretty bad contusion that still kind of hurts to this day. The one was that sprained my MCL.
Okay.
And so that set me back about another 3 months.
3 months,
that,
wow.
So, I had these plans on getting back into running. I was going to be back in by like March or late February, early March. I was going to do a 5K and maybe a 10K, and I really wanted to work up toward doing the Salt Lake Half Marathon, and then just kind of build up from there.
Yeah.
That was out of the question.
For sure.
And then as soon as I was cleared to run, mid-April, COVID happens
and everything gets shut down.
All of my races have been pretty much canceled or rescheduled, and
it's almost like the universe does not want you on the road running. Something's up, man.
But
it's for a reason, I would imagine.
But no, and I see reason into that as well, because I've done over 200 I'm at 251 races, everything 50 miler to a number of 5Ks. And I'm obviously a very social runner.
Yes, I've noticed. I liked running with you because of that.
Slurpees, right? Slurpees.
Absolutely.
For me, the best way for me to train, or the way I should say the way I like it the most, is to use races as training runs. Because what better way than to train for a marathon when you have to do a half marathon that day or whatever, to go get a free a free T-shirt, a medal, and a couple of free bananas,
and to see some friends, and bananas, absolutely.
Friends, so that really kind of changed everything for me, because not only was my running, coming back from running, my comeback prolonged because of the, getting hit by the car and then COVID. I just had to change the game plan. And so I've been running by myself.
Yeah. Well, I know. I love your pictures with your jogger shirt. Like, I love the fact that you make your own shirts, man.
It's actually the name of my blog. I've had a number of blogs, over the years, and I kind of retired, or I thought that I was going to retire my old blog, Fat Josh. PHAT.
Yeah, very 90s.
Yes, I was going to retire that last year. I'm like, I'm kind of done with blogging about running or whatever. And but after getting hit by the car and then coming back from training and everything, I kind of naturally went back to blogging. I think there's something very therapeutic and very beneficial to be able to just sit down, write out kind of your feelings, your frustrations, or your thoughts.
Yep.
I started to blog.
It's the same thing, Josh. It's the same thing. That's why as a therapist, I tell a lot of my athletes when they start really struggling, if they can't run or they have a hard time exercising, it's to start writing, and don't get me wrong. Hey, paper, to pen to paper, that's the best way. But if you're even typing it, it's the same thing, because as you're typing, you're creating what's called left-right brain stimulation, which is exactly what happens when you run, which is called EMDR therapy. And believe it or not, it works. That's how you process trauma. That's how you process the stuff that just doesn't go down quite well. That's why you've seen an increase in people like out exercising and running during this COVID stuff, is that they're trying to process what the crap's going on. So I want to ask you this question, because so many times my athletes will start running, and a lot of times they just jump into it because they have that all or nothing mentality, addict frame of mind, right? And when they get injured or something slows them down, they get into this deep depression. And when you take something away that someone's using as a catalyst for change, and it feels good when you're doing it, and all of a sudden now you can't do that because of a physical limitation, they'll try to run through the pain like you did, and then they get further injured. Or they'll get so frustrated with it because of the lack of ability to increase, that they'll just throw in the towel and go back to old ways. How in the world did you stay positive mind frame during this period where you're rebounding from a surgery, you have an accident, then COVID? Like, how have you kept your emotional, mental health like congruent without having a very powerful outlet, which is you running, you exercising, you getting out there? How did you navigate it?
Well, first off, I won't lie, it wasn't easy. I struggle with mental health. I have anxiety. And definitely, especially right now with COVID and everything, it's hard. It's hard to process, certain things and be motivated, especially since, my commute from my bed to my home office is like 6 inches.
Isn't that right behind you, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But honestly, what fuels me is seeing the end from the beginning. It's keeping in focus that ultimate goal, and that's a 100-miler. I remember even just starting out with physical therapy after my surgery and trying to pedal for like 10 minutes on the recumbent bike, and just how painful and how sore everything was. I just remember, I'm like, okay, envision that finish line. What is that finish line going to feel like? What does it look like? And work toward that. And so for that day, it was just getting through that workout. For other days, it's been maybe just running around the block or doing 2 miles, whatever it is. It's just making sure that you stay focused on seeing the end from the beginning.
I love that too. And if I can also kind of inject what I saw, just kind of being a bystander watching too, is that you didn't isolate. I mean, you can't. You're Josh. You can't isolate. Too many people want to be next to you and whatnot. And again, with the Ronin family and whatnot, watching and listening to you on the podcast and stuff, I could tell that like, although I knew it was hard, that a lot of the stuff was kind of passing you by, you didn't just sit and like self-loathe, that you follow through with obligations and responsibilities that you had with your team, with the Ronin team, and they were supportive. And and I think so many times we do this where we get in this mindset of like, no one will understand, no one will know. And I've heard on Radio Ronin, I've heard Chunga talk about his seasonal depression and all these things. And during the winter, as I was listening to this, I'm kind of thinking, I'm glad that people are talking about this so freely, because sometimes it sucks, but we're here together and we're enduring it together. How powerful is that for you?
It's very powerful. I've been blessed, yes, that I've been able to be somewhat social. I live in a household of 10 people.
Yeah.
I share it with my parents, my uncle Nick. I share it with my sister and her family. So there's never a dull moment. That helps a lot. But then also just having those 2 times that we record as Radio Ronin, the 4 of us, that's just been, it's probably been my saving grace, because that's honestly like the only time that I've ever really left the house.
Yeah. You're doing your part
and whatnot.
Absolutely. So as you're now getting back into it, though, you're not just going in full throttle. You're taking baby steps. How hard is it for you to hold back? Even though I know, Josh, you want to go full throttle and you'd love to do more, longer, bigger, faster, stronger, but you're not. So how hard is it for you to kind of go slow into it?
It's hard. There's this part of me that has, I had that same kind of mentality that I used to have, where I just want to jump right back in, like even right after I injured the ankle for the first time, getting back, I ran a half marathon that next week. I think I had 2 or 3 half marathons after that. I wanted to jump right back into half marathons. And honestly, I probably would have much sooner than needed, if it wasn't for COVID, and COVID, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really just helped me put the brakes on and like, okay, Josh, let's get back to basics. Because when I started running, when I trained for my first half marathon in 2011, I trained by myself. I did the training runs all by myself. I built my 5K base by myself. I ran around the neighborhood and whatnot. Is it my favorite? No, I'm still very much the social runner, but I think it's also kind of forced me to be a little bit more reflective in each of those runs.
Yeah.
And I just following the training plan that I have set out has really just kind of helped me with all of that, just to make sure that I'm doing it right.
That's kind of what boggles my mind with you too, is that you really are a goal-oriented person, which is funny because so many times we set these goals, we never really think we're ever going to achieve them. And so we give up on them. New Year's resolutions, all these things. People mock New Year's resolutions because they're like, no one does it anyway. Well, those are not goal-oriented people. You are. I mean, and this started way back before running. I mean, we were talking briefly before we started even about college for you and some of the things that you've done that really, man, you and I are kind of an anomaly, because we shouldn't be where we are in life because of, learning disabilities and all these other things. I share that same kind of thing. I've heard you talk on Ronin about the special classes, special ed. I was in those classes too, man.
Yeah.
And, to me, I was the first person in my family to ever graduate high school, let alone go to college, and so I think of myself like I'm just kind of an imposter here. But you were talking a little bit about those goals, and some of that started just when you did enter college. Share a little bit about how you became goal-oriented and whatnot, and to actually see them through.
I think the biggest thing for me, I would say I was kind of forced into being goal-oriented because I chose the life that I wanted to live.
Nice.
Like just talking about being in special ed and everything, I spent 8 years in special ed, from elementary to high school. And honestly, I mean, maybe it was just the 90s or whatever. but there wasn't much expectation for me, right?
Yeah.
Ditto.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting in a special ed class for me, I remember in high school having a health class, and my teacher would take us out to breakfast.
Nice.
And that was great. It was great.
Yeah. What the heck?
But the whole, quote unquote lesson was choose something healthy for breakfast, and justify it. Tell us, what it was. So, they took us to, I think it was Village Inn or whatever. Right. And so, being who I am, I'm like, I could justify anything over here. So I bought blueberry pie a la mode, and
nice for breakfast.
I justified it. It has fruit and it has ice cream, which is milk. That's great for breakfast and everything. And just things like that. Like that's a great funny story, to look back on. But at the same time, like, what was I really learning?
Exactly. Yeah.
Same with math and everything. There just wasn't expectation for me. And so I lived up to that expectation.
Right.
But finally it came to my senior year, and it was the first day of my senior year, and I was sitting in study hall. I don't know if that's still even a thing, but that was a huge thing in our special ed program, just to make sure, we had time to do our homework, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know how they justify a credit for that. But anyway, I was just sitting there, and I'm like, I'm done. I just remember I told myself, I'm done with this. I just don't want to do this anymore. So I went up to my teacher and I just said, I want out.
Yeah. Give me out.
Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I want out of special ed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we probably shouldn't do it. I'm like, this is my last year. I'd much rather be doing this, and this. I just want out. And so finally, we talked with another advisor or whatever, and I just basically came to this agreement that, okay, you can be out, but if your grades are suffering after one semester, you're back in. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I never went back in, and I actually had my first 4.0 GPA first. I never had a 4.0 GPA in special ed, and in regular classes, I had it in an AP art history class, journalism class, a regular English class, and getting that 4.0 really, I think, was just kind of the catalyst that made me realize I can
I'm
do
holding
this.
back. I'm holding back.
I set my mind to. And so I just kind of literally ran with it. And, after serving my mission, I went to Salt Lake Community College and SUU, Southern Utah University, where I graduated with a bachelor's of science. I was like 0.01 from getting on the honor roll.
Oh my gosh, Josh.
But, just, I guess just proving myself wrong, continually, just making goal by goal. It's tough because I still have a learning disability. Mm-hmm. And college courses, they can be horrible.
Yeah.
But I've had to make goals and orient them around myself and around my needs or whatever, however I see fit.
And maybe that's part of you having a high pain threshold, not just for physical, but emotional too, because again, having to endure, I know what that feels like, having to endure that and then trying to convince them to let you go to the mainstream. And they're like, but are you sure you're going to be able to make it? Well, yeah, give me some freaking credit here, people.
Yeah.
Like, I know what that's like, and in fact, I know how frustrating it was too, like trying to be in that situation where college was all of a sudden super hard. And it was more scary for me than it was hard, because I thought, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be, in the low key classes and, with the drool coming out, and
Right.
playing with blocks. And that's how I felt. And it was Marissa that was like, would you knock it off? Like, you can do this. And we just got to find the people that really want to put in the effort to help you. And so the goal-oriented mind, though, Josh, that you have is pretty wild. Because I've seen you do it like time and time again. And I think that's something that a lot of people take for granted. And so you being able to have those experiences and to build on it, I think are crucial for long-term success.
Well, and I definitely took it for granted. When I graduated from college, about 10, 11 years ago,
Yeah.
That was kind of my rock bottom, to be honest with you.
Which is so wild. Like, you graduated college, rock bottom. What?
Yeah.
Explain that. What?
Yeah. I mean, just basically graduation day, June or May 1st, 2009. Go to graduation ceremony, everything, everybody's lined up and, in their caps and gowns and everything. And I just remember just standing there feeling numb.
Yeah.
And I looking at all of these, all of these friends and graduates, thinking to myself, well, what am I doing?
Yeah. Now what?
They have their lives, figured out. They know what their next step is. And here I am graduating, and what am I doing? What am I doing in my life? I didn't have a job, set up for me right after graduation. And, I was dealing with a lot of depression that last year as well.
Mm.
I weighed over 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And I just was miserable. Even throughout the whole day, I mean, it felt like it just kept getting worse.
Oh man.
I lining up and then sitting down at the graduation, at the commencement, I split my gown, like totally ripped it. And usually the thing is, I'm very self-deprecating. But back then, especially, I was very, it was very poisonous, because I used it as a deflection of my insecurities and my faults and everything. And I tried to make a joke of that, splitting my gown, but it didn't help anything.
Didn't fix anything, did it?
No.
Yeah.
So, go through the whole day, going through the motions, and honestly, that night, because my parents came down, and my mom invited me to go out to grab dinner for the whole family, and go and grab dinner, and we come back, and we're sitting there in the parking lot of their hotel, and I was blindsided by the conversation that I had with my mom. She stood me back, and she sat there and told me, she's like, I just want to let you know how proud of you that your dad and I are, of you and this accomplishment. And then she basically said, we didn't expect you to last in your regular mainstream classes in high school. Yeah. We were afraid that you wouldn't have lasted in high school. We didn't really think that you were going to go on a mission. And then when you went on a mission, we didn't think that you were going to last that long. We thought that you were going to come home early. We didn't think that you were going to go to college. We didn't think that you were going to be able to move down to Southern Utah and graduate. And I'm sitting there listening to this conversation with my mom.
Like, what?
And I'm like,
yeah.
I am one like horrible like person, like that my parents would have this expectation of me. And then she said something that honestly entirely like shifted the narrative of my life. And like, I remember sitting there in that moment thinking, feeling this tangible shift. And she said, despite all of that, we let you choose what you wanted to do. and you did it.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
just remember sitting there and I'm like, okay, like
Wow.
it is up to me. It's all up to me.
Mm-hmm.
Expectations are other people's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it shifted things, you know, like I knew kind of in that moment what I needed to do.
Yeah.
I knew I needed to make changes in my life. You know, change habits and, you know, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all of that.
Absolutely.
But it was that moment in that parked car that just really shifted everything for me.
What a paradigm shift. I mean, literally, that's the one thing that we all kind of fear that we don't have, and that's that power of choice, you know. And for your family to be able to say, we may not think this is possible, but we're going to let him experience it for himself without talking you out of it. I mean, I can kind of understand where she was coming from, and I can see, you know, the parts of that conversation which she was trying to say, you proved us wrong, son. But then to sum it up with you know, we supported you anyway. Josh, that's rare, man. That's powerful stuff. And you've lived up to that. You really have then kind of took life by the horns and made some drastic changes. I mean, when did you start feeling like, all right, now I've accomplished this, I'm going to work on this? I mean, I remember you telling me about your first run, which was amazing.
Oh, I have a lot of interesting firsts.
Yes, you do.
Not in any chronological order either, which adds to its craziness. But you know, honestly, did I make that change or those changes right away? No, but
you never do. Mm-hmm.
I had that new mindset, right? So I was looking at the world in a different, you know, in that different perspective. Honestly, the first thing that I tackled, even before the emotional or the spiritual stuff, it was the physical. You know, I was, like I said, over 400 pounds. And honestly,
wow, yeah,
you know, people from my highest to my lowest, I lost about 180 pounds.
Dang, Josh.
For people, it's funny because, you know, when people hear this, they're like, oh man, that's amazing. That must have been the hardest thing that you've done. And, you know, to work that hard to get that weight off and everything. And honestly, it was the easiest thing.
That was easy for you.
And that's why I tackled that first.
Yeah.
Because easiest thing, because I think we all know how difficult it is to be self-reflective, to be honest with ourselves, and to hold us accountable for things that we want to do, that we want to change. That was tough. And that took me a while to kind of, you know, to kind of come to terms with.
Yeah.
But I mean, not saying that necessarily the weight and the fitness was easy. It just, it was definitely a lot easier.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think the way I tackled it, helped a lot in my approach, because I mean, being 400 pounds and being over 300 pounds for probably a good decade, I've tried every diet. I've jumped on, you know, everything. You know, I mean, gosh, like, you know, mail order, like weight loss programs. I probably have them all.
Right.
You know, because
been down those avenues.
Needed to try something. And so I jump into these, you know, these programs and these diets and whatever. And they never worked, you know? Right. So when I was tackling my weight, I decided, you know what, I'm changing my mentality about this. I'm not going in with an all or nothing approach.
Right.
I'm going to ease into this because I want this to be a habit.
Exactly.
And so I I basically started my first week on my diet or whatever. I didn't change anything I ate. I didn't change anything that I physically did. I just wrote everything down that I did to kind of give myself kind of an outlook of what I was dealing with. Right.
Absolutely.
So, I noticed after that first week, well, I probably shouldn't be eating so much fast food.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably be moving around a little bit more.
Right.
And so that next week,
just start going down the list of like things that you knew you probably should back up off of, or like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So like I cut out fast food and I started walking during lunch. And then the next week I looked at my week and everything that I ate and everything I did. And then I changed that. And then I changed that. So about that was just a month into not even really necessarily dieting or working out. I lost 30 pounds. and that kind of just got things, snowballing. I got in connection with a friend of mine who was a personal trainer, and I hired them to kind of help me with everything else. And it just, that's kind of how it started. And it just, the weight kind of fell off, I guess.
Well, the crazy thing about that too is that you didn't self-sabotage by being completely honest as you were writing that stuff down. Like, there's so many times, even when I've watched my diet and stuff, even right now, we're trying to do the old Weight Watchers thing, and and it's funny when you're like, well, I can just have this, and I'm not going to log this in because really, what is this? But that when you get in that mindset, that one thing that you slip in all of a sudden turns into multiple things that are completely getting you off track. And so the fact that you were honest with that, to be able to like articulate, this is what I need to work on. I love that, man, because Josh, I'm a sneaky bugger. I'll be that guy that'll be like, oh, I'm going to order a regular Coke instead of a Diet Coke this time. And I'm like, it's that stupid mentality, but it's like, that's my vice. And so I love the fact that you can be honest with yourself because you're like who you fooling, right? It's a cool trait to have.
And I still do that today. I've, even now, like getting back into things, losing weight for me now, I deal with kind of a plethora of kind of health issues. I have an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's. Mm-hmm. So my thyroid is tanked, and I've come to terms with that. I've gained a good chunk of weight back, which is fine because it doesn't really, it hasn't necessarily kept me away from what I love doing.
Right.
I have to be very mindful. And so, with Hashimoto's, I basically do a keto diet, and just coming back into my training and everything, I do a keto and I do intermittent fasting,
nice.
Which has been really helpful. But the thing is that I do is every week I have to have a free meal.
Yeah.
I plan that out. And my only goal, or the only requirement, I have to earn that free meal. And I do that by being 100% on my diet and getting my workouts in.
Nice.
And if I don't do either of those, then I don't get the free meal.
You're sacrificing something for something else. And then, I got you.
And it's a very short-term goal, but man, I love food. Who doesn't love it?
Exactly.
And it's fun because not only can I plan these out, but especially during this whole COVID stuff, it's finding a carry-out restaurant that I haven't had for a while, and then go eating it outside with with a friend or whatever. A lot of fun to just kind of either connect or reconnect with people. So
absolutely.
And
then they go and make an ice cream named after you. What the crap, man?
Oh man, I just say how tough that was. So JJ's Premium Ice Cream.
There you go. You plug them. Absolutely.
So JJ's is a sponsor of Radio Ronin, and they wanted to make a 4-pack for all 4 of us hosts.
Uh-huh.
And so we all have a flavor, and mine happens to be my favorite, a combination of my favorite candy, which is
right.
So it's mixed of M&Ms, chocolate ice cream, fudge swirl, and brownie bits.
My gosh,
that's not every day.
You'd make Wilford Brimley very proud with that combo, I'll tell you.
Diabetes.
Oh my gosh, Josh.
But yeah, it's called Josh's special salad.
Brilliant, because you've done that before. Your special salad. I've heard the recipe.
Yes, my M&M salad.
It's
a mixture of every kind of M&M.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. I'm voting for you and Chunga first and second, man. Sorry.
Well,
those other ones sound a little strange, yeah.
But no, it was tough, being on this diet and taste testing.
Taste testing, yeah. You get to put in the extra few extra miles out there. That's why you came back, really. That's why you got back out on the road. You're like, man, too many taste tests.
Gotta work. Yeah, all these taste tests. But anyway.
Well, then, Josh, what's on the horizon then for you? I mean, I don't want to cut you off, but what's on the horizon for you? Because things are slowly getting back to normal. Are you still planning on circling that 100-miler one day?
I am. So my kind of the outlook, or at least my plan for right now, unless COVID changes that.
COVID round 2.
You're right. My goal. So my training plan right now is I'm in the middle of a 15-week training plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tagged on a few weeks just to give myself more time, but it's supposed to get me to the Revel Big Cottonwood Half Marathon.
Nice.
Here in Salt Lake. It's a race I've done every year. I'm part of their legacy, legacy team or whatever.
Brilliant.
Love that. It's my favorite canyon. It's one of my favorite races. And just that goal is just to get there to the start line. I'm hoping, I'm praying that the race still happens.
Right.
Right. Because that's kind of my goal for right now. But then next year, I'm just planning on continuing to build up. I do have at least one 50K planned for next year.
Nice.
I have some revenge that I need to enact on the Saltaire. Saltaire 50K. I DNF'd.
I remember that one. We were waiting. Mm-hmm.
It was less than a month after my initial injury.
Funny
thing is, it had nothing to do with my ankle.
Right.
It was a very windy day.
That was nuts. We were waiting at the aid station for you. I remember.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
Mm-hmm. And I got motion sickness. I never ever had gotten motion sickness during a race, but just the wind and everything. I got to the turnaround point, and I knew I was done.
Yep.
So I called it a day, and I actually hitched a ride back.
Yeah, we were going that way, weren't we? Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know you got motion sickness, though. That's wild. I could see that because that wind was rough coming across the salt flats.
Well, you didn't see me throw up because I did that all before.
Oh, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, my gosh. I love it, though, because you would be the kind of guy that I could run 100 with, because it'd take us a week and we just fart around and have fun while we were doing it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You go my speed, man. So that's cool. I like that.
Well, and my plan as well, I really want to do the Pony Express 50 next year. So you better circle.
There we go.
For that.
There you go. You hear it here first. Yeah.
2022 is kind of what I'm planning for my 100. I want to do it down in Vegas at the Jackpot Ultra Running Festival. And I guess
fun
Jerem, I guess Jerem is going to come up from Brazil because he wants to run that as well.
Nice.
But we
just did a podcast with Vance Johnson down there. We'll make him come out and run with us.
Oh yeah.
See how former Denver Bronco does out there.
The thing that I love about this race, and I don't know how many, it depends on, I guess, how many out there are knowledgeable about the ultra scene. but there are a number of
it.
these races that are looped courses.
Mm-hmm.
So you're running maybe a mile to a 2.5 mile loop. And you sign up more so for a time than you do for a distance.
Yeah.
And that's my jam, right?
I like that.
Because being a slower runner, being the jogger in the back,
yeah.
I hate cutoff times.
I'm with you, man.
If there's anything that kills joy in running more than anything, it's a cutoff time.
Hear, hear.
So the Jackpot Ultra Running Festival, it's like a 2.5 mile loop. I did 40 miles in 12 hours a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago when I did it. And I'm planning on just signing up for the 48-hour race and then just getting my 100 miles done. I want to do it as quickly as possible. I don't want to take all 48 hours, but
no kidding.
I just want to give myself enough time to not feel that pressure.
Say here first, when that happens, I'll be there with you. I would love to. That would be a good way to do it, because then, like I said, you get to suffer together, but it's a very obtainable goal. And to be there with you to see that happen after I know how long you wanted to do it, it'd be awesome, man. So Coach Blu and Josh are hitting the streets.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
It'd be fun, man. It'd be a lot of therapy for both of us. That's what we say. We talk when we run together. It's like you're like, I get free therapy, but really, it's me that gets therapy, brother. I'm telling you.
Dude, every time that I talk to you for more than like 10 or 15 minutes, I usually pay you a copay.
I've noticed that every once in a while I see this little like $15. I'm like, oh, thanks, Josh. A little copay there. It's funny. I love that about you. That's the funny thing about who you are, man. I love that. But Josh, we could go on, and this is something that you and I have talked about. This is like the third time I think you've been on the podcast. No, second time, because the first time we did it. Remember we did a double whammy where we were in the office.
We did
for 5 hours. Remember that?
Oh yeah, we did.
Those are good times. But brother, you really do mean a lot to this team. And for most of you athletes that are listening, a lot of your jerseys and shirts recently have been produced by Josh here. And so we've got another logo that we put out for our Trail Runner series that's coming out. That Josh has done. That's a good one, man.
No, thank you. It took me a hot minute to kind of figure out the trick on how to make it look worn out
like that. Yeah.
You
was spot on. Whatever you did, it worked well, man. But so we owe you a lot, man, and specifically just because of who you are and your willingness to like just spend time with the athletes. Again, it means a lot to them. That's why I love running in the back with you, is because that's where the cool people hang out. All the amazing people are out front. All the cool people hang out in the back.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I feel the same. Like every athlete, an addict athlete. I mean, you're amazing. I love I love races where I can see that like sea of red or whatever color it is of the day, because it's family, and when you see that addict to athlete shirt and that athlete that you both that they get it, and
your family,
and
you're on the same team,
all get it, and each and every one of you inspire me. Even if you haven't shared your story, just the fact that you are where you are, whether it's Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever night it is for meetings or whatever, that's testament enough that you've worked hard to get where you're at.
Absolutely. It's in real time, and that's the beauty of it. So athletes, reach out to Josh. Josh, how do they find you? I mean, most of them have found you, but for those that are new to the podcast, how do they find you? How do they find your blog, all that stuff?
Well, ready for a long
deep breath. Yeah. Usually we say, we'll attach these too, but you have so many.
So my blog is okayestjogger.com.
Okayest Jogger. Yeah.
Okayest Jogger. You can find me on Facebook at either Okayest Jogger or Joshua Walla. It's Walla. Josher and then Walla.
Awesome.
Basically, that's what my nieces and nephew call me because they can't say Joshua. So
brilliant, man.
But you can also find me on Twitter, on Instagram at Okayest Jogger, and Josh Walla as well. And then, of course, you can find me every Monday and Thursday on Radio Ronin. That's a podcast with Jimmy Chunga, Chandler Smith, myself, and Spencer Myers. It's RadioRonin.com. We just kind of, I don't know. I mean,
you guys have great. It's fun. I love it. It is.
It's a morning show podcast.
That's the best part of it. I love it because that's why I tell my athletes, I'm like, after you get done listening to Addict to Athlete here, jump over now and get some highlights, get some fun stuff going, laugh a little bit while you're running. Pod bash music. It's great to run to. I mean, like, holy crud. I mean, it's the rhythm and the go. Just use the energy, right?
Well, and that's honestly another podcast topic for another day, because music is so therapeutic. Whether it's jamming out to Jimmy Chunga and Chandler Smith, doing their DJ stuff, or just simply having like a Spotify playlist. I have so many depending on my mood.
I liked your list too, by the way. Your list was good that you accumulated. I like that. That was awesome.
Well, and it's fun because I think everybody should have their own playlist. Yeah. Have some go to, when you need a pickup, when you need some motivation, because it is very therapeutic, and I can't say enough about it.
I think we're going to steal that idea from you all over there at Ronin and have the athletes. Maybe we should have them start putting theirs together, like their running song, their power ballads, right? Let's see what we can do.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
And I think it's great. I actually have I playlist for a little bit, and I keep changing it over and over. But I actually have one that's geared toward Addict to Athlete. Because we did when I used to have my running podcast. We did music for a while. We had a playlist of songs that either just motivating, inspiring, or probably speak a little bit closer to those who overcome addiction, and all of that. So I might share that in the group.
We should
after this airs, because I love it and I keep adding to it. So.
It's the best. Athletes, again, you've been well fed. You all who are local know Josh. For those who don't, please do. He's got a great story. He's got a great ability to help bridge gaps and to make everyone feel welcome. And when you're in the back of the pack with us, you're part of the team. You're part of the family, huh?
That's right.
I love it. So again, you've said it once, said it twice. Thanks, Radio Ronin, for the ability to be on the podcasting network with you guys. It's a great family, and I look forward to doing more with everyone. We'll have to maybe go through one of these days to get everybody on this here podcast, huh?
No, you should. I mean, Chunga, Chandler, Spencer,
they're great.
We're always willing to share our story.
We have a few more podcasts on Radio Ronin too. I mean, like you talk about with Pandas, he's got the new music.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Greg's Guide to New Music is an awesome podcast, especially if you love just discovering music.
He knows what he's talking about. I've heard some of them. Like, holy cow! Mm-hmm.
The New Day podcast that's hosted by Ian and this is a great
I love that one.
Self-help one that I love.
Yep.
I actually have gone back and forth with Ian a couple times talking about the podcast because they talk about things about setting healthy boundaries and showing yourself self-respect and everything. It just speaks right to me. And a lot of the athletes would love that as well.
They really will. Athletes, you should check it out. It's got a lot of self-help, like life hacks and things that you can do and be aware of. I love it.
So, yeah. And then obviously we have your podcast, and honestly, like behind the scenes, we love what is becoming of this podcast. And
thank you.
You are very much family within the Radio Ronin network. So
we feel honored to be there with all the podcasts that are in there. So athletes, check it out. It's the Radio Ronin network. Check them out. Like I said, Josh does 2 a week. Soon, Addict Athlete will be doing 2 podcasts a week. So stay tuned to all of our local outlets that provide the podcast. And really jump on. Give us a like on Facebook. Jump in. Give us some questions. We go live with one-on-one with Coach Blu every Wednesday. We'd love to have more support and more guidance for what you guys need to help you erase addiction and replace it with things of greater value. So until then, athletes, go turn your mess into a very powerful message.